Great. So welcome everyone to another call of our My Speaker Business community monthly calls. And as you know, everyone that has been here, but I know we have a couple of first timers. I'm often a first timer myself. So here is what we're doing together. Every month we have an incredible guest with us, and this is your call to get inspired, to get empowered, to get very concrete hints and tips on how you can actually grow your speaking and your business further. And it's also your time to ask concrete questions. It's your time to share with us if you have any high priority projects where you need support or you would just like to let us know. So towards the end of the call, there's time for that. So I suggest we jump right in, and I'd love to, and it's my honor and pleasure to introduce this very special man as our precious guest today. And we will be talking today about the secret code of persuasion and influence for speakers and entrepreneurs. And I personally already learned so much from you. So I'm sure that you sometimes wonder, I'm not closing all the deals I want. I'm missing sales opportunities, and others don't really know what's actually going on. And I don't know if you knew, but when I met David, I learned that there's actually a science behind persuasion and influence. And today, in this next hour, we are going to take away hands-on tips and suggestions and concrete guidance on how to become even more persuasive and more influential. And I can just promise you, David is going to share things and tips that no one in the speaking industry speaks about. So I'm excited to have you all here with us. It's going to be an amazing hour together. And who is actually David? Let me introduce him. And also just a quick hint, please, all of you, we play it a little bit differently here. Just to have a sparkling recording, please mute yourself unless you want to speak up. Great, let me do a quick introduction. Who is actually David? His full name is David Thomson, and he has an incredible life story to tell. I mean, he has been brought up in quite a few children's homes when he was a child, and he left school without a college education. And you can imagine when you grow up under these circumstances and these conditions, you need to learn early intuitively what it means to persuade and to influence others to really get what you need and want. And at early age, he already also, he's been in the army for quite a few years. He became a boxing champion. And I know Doug was in the army as well, and some of you might resonate with that. And after he left the army, he became a financial advisor, which got him really to start studying, the law and the what makes you really persuasive. And what's also something you want to know about David is he is one of the handpicked 19, only 19 in the world, handpicked, certified personal trainers, and he is endorsed by Dr. Robert Cialdini. So he is one of the 19 that Cialdini, who is actually a recognized worldwide expert on the psychology of influence, and Dave is one of the 19 that he handpicked that can actually train that methodology. And I know that there's so much more to say about David. Just to make a long introduction a little bit shorter, he has been a mortgage advisor. He became the leading mortgage advisor in one of the leading ones in the UK. He started his own best deal insurance company. He grew several companies actually to quite a valuable company, and sold one of them for several million. So we want to learn something about that eventually as well at some point, but today is all about persuasion influence. So I know that the last couple of years, David, this has become your life mission to actually train these concepts and bring them into the world and help incredible business leaders, entrepreneurs to actually step up with what they're doing by becoming more influential. It's amazing to have you with us today, David. Welcome.
Hi. So good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for that wonderful introduction, Monique. Good morning to everybody. If you want to just unmute a moment, just unmute your thing so we can just talk just for a few seconds. So here's what I'd like to do. Right? I'd like this to be an interactive session. This is your session. So you can just talk and communicate. If you don't get something, just say, it's for you. This is for you. I'll share with you all of my background, all of my wisdom, my experience. But what I don't want you to do is sit there with questions and think, what is he going on about? Because there's a cultural difference. Alternatively, I can't understand how to apply this to me. It wants to be super practical, super interactive. So if I can get everybody's agreement that everybody will play full out, that would be amazing. Yeah, we're for that. Yes, thumbs up. Okay, cool. And you can talk at any time. So what I'll do is I'll take you through a presentation that I've put together just to explain to you about the science of persuasion and influence, how you can apply that science. Some of it you'll see that's readily that's there, some of it you won't. After the session, if you want to reach out and you want some help, just reach out and I'll give you some help. It's not a problem, no charge. For this special lady, I'm prepared to help because she's helped me massively. So if you want me, there'll be ways that you can reach out to me afterwards, free of charge, and I'll help you. And anything that you want, just say, this is what I need and this will go. So let me just present to you what I've put together, a little presentation, some funny little videos. And again, if you want to interrupt at any time because you don't get it, just shout out. You know, there's only a few of us there, so that's cool. Cool. So let's go. Let's talk. So my presentation will work. Okay, can everybody see my screen? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, good. Okay, so this is me, David Thomson, and what I'm going to talk to you about is transforming business, transforming your life through the lines of persuasion and influence. My business is called Swader, swader.com. Swader is the Roman goddess of persuasion. She is the leading figure in the world in terms of what it is about persuasion. That's what we're creating. That's not live yet, but you won't find it. And when I say the science of persuasion, I'm talking about small changes that you can make that make a huge difference. So tiny, tiny little things, often that only take a few minutes to implement, that make a big difference. But question for you, when was the last time you learned something that was truly magical, that you could apply straight away and made a huge difference to your life? When was the last time? Just think about that, because that's what this is. This is massive. So here's Swader. She's this Roman goddess of persuasion, and that's what I'm creating. So I want you to be learning from a goddess. It's not David Thomson stuff. This is from the gods. This is young me, 5 years old. When I was a kid growing up, I didn't have the best upbringing in life. In fact, by the time I was 9 years old, I'd lived in 10 different houses, been to 5 different schools, and I'd been in a children's home. And I left school at 16 with no qualifications and became a soldier in Her Majesty's Forces, the British Army. And that was me at 21 as a soldier in Northern Ireland. And obviously you can see my life, my hair's changed since then. I've lost a few hairs, but I've learned a few brain cells. In my business life, when I left the army, I became a financial advisor. Not just any financial advisor. I was actually the top financial advisor in the United Kingdom. And I did it all through learning about the science of persuasion and influence. And for the last 30 years, that's all I've done. But here's the deal. Everybody, if you can just unmute, everybody just unmute. And I want you to repeat these words after me, right? And I want to hear them, right? David, say David.
David.
So what?
So what?
Okay. Who cares?
Who
Who
cares?
cares?
What about me?
What about me?
About me.
It's all about me.
It's all about.
All
All about me.
Imagine you've got a neighbor on your right hand side. So turn to your neighbor on your right hand side and say to your neighbor, neighbor,
Neighbor.
so what?
So what?
Who cares?
Who cares?
What about me?
What
What about me?
It's all about me.
It's all about me.
Okay, turn to your other neighbor on your other side. And I want you to say after me, neighbor.
Neighbor.
So what?
So what?
Who
What?
cares?
Who cares?
Me.
What about me?
All about me.
All about me.
Me.
Okay, every time you meet a client, every time you talk to a speaker agency, every time you interact with somebody, that's what they're thinking. So what? Who cares? What about me? It's all about me. So here's for you, right? Just a question for you. How important is persuasion for you? How important is it that you get your own way, that you're persuasive out of 10? Where are we at? Is it a 1 or is it a 10? Big thing or a little thing?
10.
10. Big
10.
thing, right? It's a 10. But how much time do you spend studying it? How much time do you spend studying? Who spends like time every single day studying persuasion? Time every week? Who spends time?
Not every day, but at times.
At times. Okay, so we've got this hugely important topic, and we spend little bits of time on it. So this is a big topic. It's worth spending some time. So today's time we're going to spend on it is really important, and it's really powerful. And what we're talking about here is the science of yes. How do we get people to say yes to us? And here's my preface. If you're a salesperson, none of your sales turn into sales until somebody's prepared to say yes to your proposal. If you're a manager, you can have the best ideas in the world, the best projects in the world, but until your bosses are willing to sign off on those projects, they go nowhere. And if you're a business owner, you can have the best mission, vision, values in the world, but unless you can get your team to come along with you and get them to say yes to you, you're going nowhere. And if you're at home, your personal happiness, if you can't get your partner to say yes to you now and again, you're not going to be very happy. Also, your family, if you've got kids or loved ones or other ones, you can't get them to say yes, and your friends. So you need this at home, you need it you need it at work, and it's a yes, it's a science. So that's what we're talking about, the science of yes, and that's what we'll be digging into. But what we have to be aware of is there's 3 different kinds of yeses. We've got first a confirmation yes, which is a I hear you. Second kind of yes is a counterfeit yes. It's a fake yes. People say yes to you, but they don't mean it. And the last yes is a commitment yes, a real yes. That's what I call a feel yes. So here we're going to be dealing with a feel yes. How do we get people to say yes to us in a real way? And how do we distinguish between the 3? So with regards to influence, the category we're going to talk about today is influence, right? But there's different ways to influence, and there's different things that we can do. We can use cash and intimidation, i.e. these fellas, the mafia, they can influence you. They can say, do this, or Don Corleone's going to sort you out. Alternatively, they can say, do this, and I'll give you a big suitcase full of cash. But the next time, if you try and influence somebody, they're going to want that same big suitcase full of cash again. But what we're doing is the science of persuasion, the way that we can get people to have lasting influence, how we can persuade in an ethical, effective, long-lasting way. Any of you guys recognize any of these people in this image?
Yeah.
Yeah? Who are they? Obama, right? Yeah, you recognize Obama. The guy on the left of him, his name's Dr. Daniel Kahneman, and he wrote this book on the left that was called Thinking Fast, Thinking Slow. He was more famous in his field than Obama. And what he discovered was that when we think, we take shortcuts continually. And the guy that wrote the book on the shortcuts was a guy called Dr. Robert Cialdini. And he said of Dr. Cialdini, he's the most practical psychologist on this earth. What he won a Nobel Prize, Kahneman did, and he got it for discovering this really complex system. It was called System 1 and System 2 in terms of how we think. So we either think fast and emotionally or slow and logically. What do we think the splits are between those 2 systems? Do we think 50-50, 60-40? What do we think?
80-20.
80-20?
Does it not depend on the person?
No, it doesn't. This is a universal study that he did across the best brains in the world in terms of how we think.
What about men and women? I mean, women are more emotional.
Actually, it turned out that when he did the study, he won a Nobel Prize for working out it was actually 90-10. 90% of the decisions we make, we think fast as opposed to slow. So we make most of our decisions super fast emotionally rather than slow and logically. And it's more like 95-5. And think about it, today we're bombarded with choices to make. So we're forced to make shortcuts. So I'm going to show you how those shortcuts link with influence and how you can use those shortcuts. This is an interesting research study. Canadian research in the 1980s did some research on attention spans. And he looked at different people, and what found was human beings in 1980 had an attention span of about 20 minutes. And goldfish have an attention span of 9 seconds. In 2020, how many minutes do you think the average human attention span is today?
7 seconds.
Yeah, it is. It is 7 seconds. It's actually 8 seconds. We get beaten by the goldfish and it's going down. So we make fast decisions based on the smallest amount of information. And what happens is this thing here, this influence that we'll talk about today, this is key to the decisions we make. These are the shortcuts we take. We take 6 shortcuts: liking, reciprocity, consensus, authority. And the guy that wrote this book, Influence, a guy called Dr. Robert Cialdini, he worked with Kahneman to help Obama get elected to the White House. So that's what we're going to talk about in terms of the shortcuts of influence. That's what we're going to look at. This is not in the public domain, but this is really powerful, and it's called the core motives. Dr. Greg Neidert noticed it. So when we talk to people, there's 3 core motives. One's building relationships, the other one's overcoming uncertainty, and the last one's motivating action. And what Dr. Neidert noticed was whenever we're trying to persuade somebody, we're trying to influence them, they get stuck at one of these 3 levels. Is it a broken relationship? Is it overcoming uncertainty? Is it motivating action? And the influence principles are linked to each of those are linked to each of those states. So we'll go through and we'll look at those states and see how they connect. This is the preferred method in terms of what I learned from Bob, from Dr. Cialdini, in terms of the influence process. Typically, if we come up with a challenge, somebody says to you, this is what I want you to do, this is the problem. What we tend to do is we tend to jump straight in and try and solve it. Certainly if we're men, we do, right? But what we should do is think like this: take a step back, think from the problem through a set of influence principles, solicit input from your colleagues or other people that understand influence, create a plan, then go in. So that's what influence is based on. That's the influence process, if you like. In terms of what Dr. Cialdini found when he was studying influence was, and the reason he came up with the concept was, he would typically be sitting at home, somebody would knock on his door and offer him a new energy contract. In the UK, these are big energy suppliers. And he would say yes because he was a nice guy. Alternatively, he would go into the supermarket, he'd go in to buy one thing, and the next thing you know, he comes out with like a whole shopping trolley full of different things. And he's like, why do I keep buying these things? So that was what motivated him to write the book Influence. What the big thing about influence is, it's a science, it can be taught, and if it can be taught, it can be learned, and it can be learned, it can be implemented. So let's look at the first principle of influence. Enough of the history and the science, let's look at the first one. And the first one is the principle of reciprocity. And reciprocity is to do with reciprocal exchange. If I remember your birthday with a gift, when it comes to my birthday, you feel obligated to remember my birthday with a birthday and gift. If somebody sends you a Christmas card, we feel an obligation to give them a Christmas card back. And the rule of reciprocity says this: we feel obligated to give back to others the same form of service they've given to us. We feel obligated, we feel it, it's a feeling inside of ourselves. And there's a lovely little clip here that just explains it. I'll just put on.
Well, thank you for that. But I got you and Leonard a few silly neighbor gifts, so I'll just put them under my tree.
Wait, you bought me a present?
Uh-huh.
Well, why would you do such a thing?
I don't know, because it's Christmas?
No, Penny, I know you think you're being generous, but the foundation of gift giving is reciprocity. You haven't given me a gift. You've given me an obligation.
Don't feel bad, Penny. It's a classic rookie mistake. My first Hanukkah with Sheldon, he yelled at me for 8 nights.
It's okay. You don't have to give me anything in return.
Well, of course I do. The essence of the custom is that I now have to go out and purchase for you a gift of commensurate value and representing the same perceived level of friendship as that represented by the gift you've given me. It's no wonder suicide rates skyrocket this time of year.
You know, forget it. I'm not giving you a present.
No, it's too late. I see it. That elf sticker says to Sheldon. The die has been cast. The moving finger has writ. Hannibal has crossed the Alps.
Okay, so that's reciprocity, right? What do we call people that don't reciprocate? Just shout out. What do we call them?
Rude.
Rude, yeah. What else?
Greedy.
Yeah, greedy. There's a whole,
Self-centered.
yeah, there's a whole list from freeloaders, mutuals, ingrates, spongers, stiffs. So what do all of those things have in common?
A negative.
They're all negative. Nobody wants to be on that list, do they? Nobody wants to be there. So what does that mean to us? We did a piece of fast food in consulting for the McDonald's group in South America. Normally, if you're going to do consulting inside McDonald's, it's it's not worth doing because they only work in small franchises or owned by 2 or 3 people. However, in South America, the Arcos Holdings Group own all of the franchises. And what we wanted to see was when you walked into McDonald's, if we could change the time when you were given this gift. Typically, you would be given a gift of a balloon. A little kid would be given a gift of a balloon when they were leaving McDonald's, but not on the way in. So what we wanted to see is if you gave the gift of the balloon on the way in, if that would change the amount of spend that the parents would have. Now, in South America, what happens is adults will often take their kids in there on a weekend, but they won't spend any money. Grandparents, parents, they'll spend no money. They won't even buy a cup of coffee. So the test was, if we give the kid the balloon on the way in, as opposed to on the way out, would it increase spend? And turns out it did, right? In terms of sales of family business went up by 20%, and sales of associated. Now, family business was coffee. So there was a 45% increase in spend just by the time that the gift was given. So, and the gift was, cups of coffee cost 69 cents. And the price to produce the coffee was 2 cents, so 67 cents profit just for the time when they were given that gift. So that was compared to the control group. They run it across 200 restaurants across their whole thing. Here's some ideas, things that you can give in terms of gifts to people that you meet. So love, information, attention, time, affection, favors. Often these things are what? They're free. Often they're free. They cost you nothing. Cooperation, recognition, trust. So the next person you meet, don't necessarily think, what can you do for them? Think about it a little bit differently. Because when we walk into a room, often we think, how can this speaker help me get onto this stage? How can this person help me do this thing? What we should be thinking is, who here can I help? Who here can I help? How can I help this person? Because if you help somebody, they're going to feel what back to you?
Obligated.
Yeah, obligated. Yeah, somebody's done something for you and you know how they can help you. So the first thing when you meet somebody to open up a relationship is utilize the principle of reciprocity, giving them time, information, listening, advice. That's what social psychology teaches us. How can I help this person? That's the first rule if you want to establish a relationship. The second rule of influence is the principle of liking. Principle of liking. We like people that like us. We like people that are like us. And we like people that cooperate with us. And liking's the other principle for building and establishing a relationship. This fits with the second core motive. And liking leads to yes. So if you want people to say yes to you, ideally you want them to say yes to you. There's 3 things that create liking, and I'll share with you the core motives module at the end with all of these things. Similarities, praise, and cooperation. They're the 3 things that create liking. So this is just so, if you see somebody and they've got the same socks as you, the same coat as you, right, you tend to like them more. If you often see people that look like their pets or animals, it helps. There was a guy on LinkedIn called David Thomson, and he wanted to be friends with me. And normally, if there's no connection and they've got no things, I won't say yes. But because his name was the same as my name, I had to say yes. Anybody that was there. And there was a similar name sender study. Typically, they'd send out this study and ask people to fill out this survey and say, please, can you fill it and send it back? And the average response rate was 1%. When they changed the name on the study, from instead of it being Andy Jones to Alan Jones, if you received a survey from an Alan Jones, twice as many people, if they had a similar name, would send it back. So finding similarities with people that you meet makes a massive difference. And you can easily do that by doing your research first. Google, LinkedIn, Facebook, they're all easy ways to find similarities with somebody. So we want to connect with individuals. Here's an interesting little study. This is a program in the UK, and it's called the X Factor. And I just thought it was a funny clip. It's to do with music. Just watch this guy auditioning and watch his response.
flowers.
Hi, mate. Where are you from?
Robbie, I'm from Manchester, Macclesfield, which is not far from where you come from. Stoke-on-Trent.
That's right.
Robbie, I cannot tell you what an inspiration. Take that, and especially you, Robbie, has been an inspiration to us all. Love you, Robbie.
Bless you, mate. That's very sweet.
God bless us all. My name is Andy Houghton, and I'm a customer service advisor at a plumbing and drainage company. We had a lady call in, and she said, "Oh, my toilet's blocked." I could hear Robbie in the background, and it was Rock DJ. I said, "Oh, you got Robbie on in the background. Well, I'll just sort it out for you. I'll sing some Robbie down the phone." So I just like, "I don't want to rock DJ." And Robbie and take that inspired me so much. And I do think without them, there would be no Andy Houghton.
Andy, what are you going to sing for us today?
I'm going to do this song. It's been in the making for 20 years, and I did send this song to Gary Barlow.
That was 20 years ago.
Yeah, I don't know why it's taken 20
You
years.
must have run out of stamps.
You should have sent it to me. You'd have got a response from me.
Ida, these flowers are for you, and Robbie, this is your hat.
You.
Is that my hat?
From many years ago.
So he's activating reciprocity and he's already given them some praise automatically.
Get it on, Rob. Put it on, like. I really like Robbie. Robbie's so lovely.
Ida, that's for you.
So sweet.
Bless you, Andy.
Andy,
Do a
bless
good
you.
job, mate.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is Castle Love. All my life, I've been building my castle of love that leads me to your heart.
Can he sing?
No.
No, he can't sing, but he's been a nice guy, right? Because he's given praise by saying, I live in a normal place like you. So this is the second part of his audition. They give him a go at a second song. So give me your second song.
I think you need a bit of help.
As an angel contemplate my faith, and do they know the places where we go? Everybody's hands when we're gray and old.
Can he sing still? He still can't sing, can he?
Just like they've been told that salvation lets their wings unfold. So when I'm lying in my bed, thoughts running through my head, and I feel that love is dead. Where my life? Then, she offers me protection, a lot of love and affection. Been around right or wrong, and down the waterfall, wherever it may take me, I know that I'm gonna break me. Where comes the call, she wants to save me. I'm loving angels instead. Give it up for Alice.
And guess what he got? He got 4 yeses. But why did he get 4 yeses?
Because they loved him.
But did they love him? They loved Robbie, and Robbie had cooperated with him. He'd given a present to his partner, so that was forming a relationship. He'd given a hat to Robbie. He'd given him praise. So this is forming relationships. These are the building blocks, the shortcuts that we take in those seconds. So you look, when you walk into a room, think, what can I do to find a similarity with this person? What can I do to give them a gift? How can I form a relationship? They're the big shortcuts we take, and they make a massive difference. So the principle of authority, right? The principle of authority. So people like to follow the advice, the lead of experts, people that have experience in an area in order to reduce their uncertainty about what they should do next. So when people are uncertain, they don't know what to do in a subject line or in an area. What they don't do is they don't look outside of them. They don't look inside of themselves, because all they see is a whole load of uncertainty. What they do is they look outside to the word, the voices, the opinions of genuine experts. But there's one form of authority that they trust, that research has shown us around the world to be the single most communicator of effectiveness. That behavioral science, you know, wherever we do the research, this shows us that this is the place where people look above all of the kind of communicators. And they have two qualities, two characteristics that nobody else has. And those characteristics are expertise and trustworthiness. If you can show that when you're trying to persuade somebody to move in your direction, that what you're trying to persuade them with, what you're trying to persuade them on is aligned with experts, then people trust you significantly more. There's a lot more trust there than what there would be as if you're trying to persuade them on your own. So let's just have a little look at a research thing we did. So, but question for you, why do we rely on the knowledge, the expertise of other people with superior knowledge and wisdom? Why do we trust experts? Why is it?
Well, they have a proven success record, one reason, I guess.
Yep. What else?
They've got something that it maybe be some knowledge or skill or competence in something that we don't believe that we have.
Yep.
Lots of people acknowledged that they are real experts. So many people believe in them. So if many people believe, I should believe them too.
Yeah, and they know something we don't want to know, and we can't be asked to learn it. So it's a shortcut for us. We rely on these shortcuts more and more and more. These people know something we don't want to know. And so, but there's a big difference on this first thing here between being an authority, i.e. Martin Luther King, or in authority, a police officer. And this guy has superior knowledge, expertise on a subject matter. These people are in authority. So what we look for is who's somebody that is an authority. So this is just an interesting clip. I always like to just play little clips. And this is just showing you a program that we call The Voice in the UK. It's funny, but just listen to this. It's a minute. It's entertaining.
¿Cómo te llamas?
Lucy.
Lucy. ¿Dónde eres?
Soy cubana y española. I'm half Cuban, half Spanish, but I'm currently living in London.
¿De qué parte de Cuba?
La Habana.
Ah, muy bien.
I hablo español. That's
Claro
so
que
cool.
sí. Latin music right now is the most popular form of music on the planet. So
that's praise. He's giving her praise. Well done. He's cooperating with it by singing the same language that she's singing. So they're two shortcuts.
It's really important that you're on the show. And what you're going to do is going to be amazing depending on which coach you pick. Your range is really, really amazing. When you were like, you know, singing in unison with the synth line, do you mind if you do that again so I can record it and send it to Balvin?
Yeah. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Name dropping.
Oh, here we go. Here we go. We just did a song with J Balvin. It's called Ritmo.
Oh my God.
Oh, well, that's it then.
Yeah, well,
But that's authority. You get it, right? So he's aligning with an expert. He's saying, this is an expert. This is where I'm aligning. So where are you aligned with an expert? There's a lot more that we do in here. So this is the Bose Corporation. Bose brought out this new piece of technology, and it was the new Bose sound wave machine. And everybody that heard it thought it was amazing, but it wasn't selling. So they came to Influence at Work, came to Dr. Cialdini, and they said, Dr. Cialdini, why is this not selling? Why aren't more people buying this? It's the best thing in the world. So Dr. Cialdini said, have you got reviews from experts? Are you aligned with experts? And they said, yes, we are. And he said, okay, So maybe we can use a little bit of scarcity, which we'll move on to in a minute. And then what we can also use is some authority. And so he changed the advert, and I'll just show you how the advert changed. He added in the words here, hear what you've been missing. So it went from new to hear what you've been missing. And then he added the expert testimonials, the reviews on the side. So with authority. And these are the expert reviews. Ford had said, turn it up close, it's amazing. Audio viewers, these are the expert reviews. And this added authority. So when you can show that your new product, your service, what you're saying has been promoted by experts, what that does for people is it reduces their uncertainty. They say, well, if the experts think it's right, then it must be right. That's a shortcut. It's a human psychology shortcut. Next principle of influence, which is linked to reducing uncertainty, is the principle of consensus social proof. So when the answers aren't inside of ourselves and we don't know what to do, what we often do is we look outside to others. We think, what's everybody else doing? What's everybody else doing? Because there's a power in a crowd, there's strength in numbers. And if everybody else is moving in this direction, there must be something in it. That's what we think. Now, if you think about, if you go back to the olden days, imagine you were cast out from your tribe. What did that mean? Everybody just say, what did it mean? If you were cast out from the tribe, what did it mean? In the olden days, like thousands of years ago.
A threat.
It's a threat. Well, what did it mean though? And inevitably, what happened?
Risk of death.
Yeah, it was death. It was, you die. So hardwired into our code, into our DNA, is this: if I do not follow what the crowd are doing, right, I feel like I'm going against the crowd, even if it's wrong, right? And there's been brain studies done on this. I've got loads and loads of studies on this. We know the strength in numbers, power in the crowd, and we want to follow the crowd. We follow the crowd continually, right? And you know, this is an interesting little video. I like to play little videos, candid cameras, a couple of minutes. It's entertaining, but it just explains it.
The gentleman in the elevator now is a candid star. These folks who are entering, the man with a white shirt, the lady with a trench coat, and subsequently one other member of our staff will face the rear. And you'll see how this man in the trench coat tries to maintain his individuality, but little by little, he looks at his watch, but he's really making an excuse for turning just a little bit more to the wall. Now we'll try it once again. Here's the candid subject. Here comes the candid camera staff, 3 of them at least. And this man has apparently been in groups before.
Oh dear.
Now, here's a fella with his hat on in the elevator. First, he makes a full turn to the rear, and Charlie closes the door. A moment later, we'll open the door. Everybody's changed positions. Now we'll see if we can use group pressure for some good. Now, in a moment, on Charlie's signal, everybody turns forward. Notice they take off their hats. And now, do you think we can reverse the procedure? Watch.
So you can see it's a bit of fun, but we decide what to do when we don't know exactly what to do based on what other people are doing. So if you can show them your evidence of what other people have done with you, you can show, here's what everyone else is doing, this is what they've done, and collect reviews, collect testimonials, then we trust those reviews, those testimonials. That's what we look for. So it's about evidence of how other people feel, think, and act and do. This is what other people have done. Here's the evidence of it. This is Chinatown in London. So if you're going to go to Chinatown in London, and you go there and there's two restaurants. There's this one or there's this one. Which one do you go in? The quiet one or the busy one? Which one do you go in?
Busy one.
Why?
Must be good. Everybody else is in there.
Doesn't mean anything. Could be terrible. But strength in numbers, power of the crowd. These are just the shortcuts that we take within those 7 seconds. So we take them. And what we recognize as sites, this is one of the big sites, booking.com, they'll tell you that if you're going to go on there, 95% of people think this is excellent. 2 people are looking, they'll add in some scarcity. So people are using these things all of the time. And there's only a couple of rooms left. So we need to tell people what's unique about us, what they stand to lose about us, but then also what other people think. And this is another interesting principle, the principle of consistency and commitment. So once we take a commitment or make a stand, we want to be consistent with it. This fella here is Socrates, and he said, one of my favorite things that I used in my financial services business was, if I ask a question or a series of questions to which a prospect will readily agree, and then ask a concluding question based on those agreements, I will receive a desirable response. Often we can make statements, but we don't ask questions. And so what Socrates would teach us how to do is, here's how we can make some, how we can ask some really cool questions. How can we base our philosophy on asking questions? So what do we call people who are inconsistent? We have names for them. Wishy-washy flakes, unreliable. So if we apply Socrates to our persuasive attempts, we can make people significantly more persuasive, significantly more influential. Here's something. This is just something on, it's an easy target. I've got no political things with anybody in the world, but it's just showing you how people can be inconsistent and how it shows up for them. You know, I'm not a Trump fan and anybody fan. Just see. This is him talking about Hillary Clinton.
She has no natural talent to be president.
She's very talented, and she has a husband that I also like very much.
Hillary Clinton was the worst Secretary of State in the history of the United States.
Hillary Clinton, how did she do as Secretary of State? Probably above and beyond everybody else.
Let's say Hillary is president.
Hillary Clinton, I think, is a terrific woman. I think she really works hard, and I think she does a good job, and I like her.
So that's just showing inconsistency. And when we see inconsistencies, then what happens is, then we judge it. So making people be consistent, it doesn't make them look good. So how can we make people more consistent? This is a system that we use, that I use, and it's 6 killer questions that bring on consistency. 6 things that you can use when you talk to a client. So if we had a situation whereby, I did this with a load of personal trainers in the fitness industry recently, and they were saying, how can we get clients to come and work in our gym rather than another gym? And I said, well, you could use the 6 killer questions. So I'll just apply it to that context, just so you can use it. But you can use it with any context if somebody's thinking about coming to work with you. And the first question is, you haven't been working without me before. Why might you change from what you've been doing before? Why might you change from what you've done previously? So I'm getting some feedback from somebody's thing there. Why might you change? So you can ask them. So can everybody just mute a minute if that's all right? Somebody's coming. So why might you change from what you've been doing previously? You've been going down this road previously. Why might you change from that? And so it's still coming back.
I changed it, Dave.
Okay, cool. Okay. The next thing is, on a scale of 1 to 10, how ready are you to change? So if it was coming to the gym, somebody might say, well, I've not been coming to the gym, but I'm thinking about coming to this gym and working out with you. You say, why might you change? And somebody will give you some reasons. They'll say, well, I want to get fit. I want to be able to chase my kids. I want to do these things. And you say, on a scale of 1 to 10, how ready are you to change? This step takes bravery. And people will say, well, I don't know, 5. And this is where the fun really begins. You ask them then a counterintuitive question. You ask them why they didn't choose a lower number. And what happens there is, if 10 is over here and 1's here, you ask them why they didn't choose a lower number. People then start to fill in their own rationale, their own reasonings as to why they would do what they do with you. They'll start giving you their reasons. They'll say, well, why didn't I pick a lower number? Well, because if they've said 7, just for example, they'll say, well, I know I need to work out, and they'll start moving closer towards you. And if I do, I'll be happier, and I'll do, and I'll do, and I'll do. And they'll backing it up with their own reasons. The next question is, imagine you've changed. So they're future pacing their own reality. We ask them, what would the positive outcomes be? What would be great about it if we did start working together? If you did start coming to the gym, you did start working out, you did start achieving your objectives. And they're going to start telling you the benefits of being on your side of the street and working with you. Then it's, why are those things important to you? Why are those things important to you? And they'll give you their own reasons. So they're so important to me because I'll be happier, I'll be fitter, I'll be more successful. And then the next question, if you want to close without closing, is what's the next step, if any? What's the next step that you would take, if any? So you don't have to close anybody else down. They start closing themselves down. 6 killer questions. This comes from a guy called Mike Pantalon, and he called it Instant Influence. There's a book written on this called Instant Influence. This is his work, and it's brilliant. And if you apply it in the right way, it works. He's a Yale University professor, and he was able to get people off of heroin in 20 minutes, sorry, 7 minutes or less by using this system. Really good, super effective. And the last principle of influence, so consistency and commitment, what that does, it motivates people to take action. And the last principle of influence is the principle of scarcity. This is the most powerful principle of all the principles you can use. Telling people what they stand to lose is hugely popular. And opportunities appear to us to be more valuable when they're rare. So what's rare about you if you can work with a client? There's only one of you. And so if there's competition for your services, people will want you. So you need to think about what makes you rare or unique. Here's what I can do. Here's what I've got that's rare. Here's what's unique about me. And actually tell people about that. Tell people what it is that makes you unique, what makes you stand out. So just open out to everybody, just a question. What's more persuasive, a limited time offer or a limited number offer? Everybody just say what you think, just unmute. Limited time, limited number. What do we think?
I'd go for limited number.
Number.
Yeah. And it is, you're right, it's always limited number. But sometimes we'll say, if you can get back to me in the next 24 hours, right, let me know, because then I'll keep that place for you. Whereas what you could say is, look, there's only one of me. I'm speaking to 5 people at the moment. When they come back and if they ask me, I'm gone, that date is gone. So limited number is way more popular. The other thing is, if you've got 3 spaces, somebody could come and take all those 3 spaces away immediately, and all of a sudden they're gone. There's no space left. So always remember, it's not about limited time. Limited number is way more powerful, and it's 50% more powerful. This is a really interesting study about a university student who's going through Arizona State University to get his PhD in social psychology and influence. And what he did was he imported beef from Australia into the US. And when you buy beef, you buy it in the train cartload. And what he wanted to know was what impact scarcity and exclusive information would have on his orders. And so what he did was he divided his clients into 3 different types of approach. He said, right, there's a standard approach that we make to our clients every day. There's a scarcity approach, and then there's an exclusive information approach. And so what he did was he rang the first 100 clients up, and he said to them, this was a real study that was done to get his PhD. He said, this is the beef that we've got. It's this quality, it's this price. We're importing it in from Australia. How many train cartloads of beef do you want to order? And the average was just over 10 train cartloads of beef. To the second group of clients, second bunch of clients, they rang them up and said, we've got this beef that we're importing from Australia. It's coming in at this quality. However, we've been told there's going to be some bad weather. There's likely to be some forest fires. And therefore, the prices of beef are likely to go up. How many train cartloads of beef would you like? And would you think, do you think people ordered more or less? Yeah, more. And it was more. And it was quite a bit more, actually. It was 24 train cartloads of beef. But on the last approach, what they did, and this was genuine scarcity, on the last approach, what they did was they rang the clients up and they said, hello, Mr. Client, we've got this beef. We're importing it in from Sydney, Australia. It's X price, it's X quality, and we've been told there's some bad weather. And also, you are one of the first people to know. We've got this from our exclusive source inside the National Weather Service in Sydney, Australia, that there's going to be some really, really bad weather. There's likely to be some forest fires, and you're one of the first people to know. And when they did that and they added exclusive information, what happened was it was 610% more persuasive. The average was 61 train cartloads of beef per client. That's what people were ordering. Now, nothing had changed about the beef, nothing about its price, nothing about its quality, nothing about anything else. All that had changed was what they'd said before, do you want to order? And that was saying it was going to be scarce and here was some exclusive information. Now, these people had got a genuine source inside the Australian National Weather Service. It was real scarcity and there was going to be some bad weather. So it wasn't just bungling and making it up. Otherwise, people would only do that once. But they've been sitting on this data about bad weather, for ages, you know, for forever and ever a day in terms of beginning of time, but hadn't used it. So when you're talking to your clients, it's not enough to tell people what they stand to gain if they start working with you. Tell them if you've got some exclusive information, or if you're going to be scarce, tell them that you're going to be scarce. And that, ladies and gents, is the end of my presentation in terms of presenting to you the 6 principles of influence. What this forms part of is what I call the sales transformation course, transforming the way that people do sales. And what I've been doing, and what I'm in the process of doing, is building all of this into an app, into a piece of technology, so that people can learn to be more persuasive, more influential more often. But I just thought I'd share with you one of the parts of that in an hour on influence running through Thomson. If you want to connect with me, if you've got any questions, reach out to me. It's David Thomson, CMCT. That's how you'll find me on LinkedIn. So if you want to connect on LinkedIn, got any questions, I can help you in any way. As I said, I'm happy to help, not a problem at all. Thank you.
Amazing, David. Every time I hear you speak about this stuff is, again, I pick up something again. I'm sure you all did, right? So we'd also like to give you the opportunity, all of you that are here with us, to also ask specific questions. If there's anything that you want to go deeper into or have any questions about, I think, David, now would be the time, right? So yeah. Let us know if there's anything coming up for you, okay? I just realized that, again, intuitively, I've done a lot of things right.
You'll be doing loads of this, right?
It's always something I think like, I need to pay more attention on that. There's so much that you shared that was really valuable. So let me again give everyone here the opportunity, Andy, Eva, Ray, whoever's here with us, Roger, Doug. If there is any questions, now is your chance to speak and to.
I've got a question.
Yeah, go ahead, Ray.
So thank you, David. I loved that, and got a bit of a background in psychology and NLP, and I was a Myers-Briggs practitioner as well, and I think about that in relation to preferences and selling. So this is just, I just love everything that you've done and the way that you've kind of condensed that down. So there you go. I've done the flattery bit. It's
brilliant.
Like Robbie Williams now, isn't it? I haven't got your hat and I haven't got any flowers, but you know. So one of the things that really matters to me when I work with people is about that kind of genuine authenticity. And when I talk to clients, I talk about the fact that it's not about manipulation in any way. It's not about underhand or trying to get one over on somebody, that it is about an authentic, real relationship. And I just wondered whether you had any insights or anything that you would like to sort of speak to in relation to that need for genuine authenticity.
Yeah, I mean, so one of the things, there's 3 different kinds of influence practitioner, and this is what I teach in the workshop. That's the first one is a bungler of influence. That's somebody that doesn't know the principles, doesn't know how to apply them. And because of that, what happens, they get to a situation and people are saying no when they should say yes, because they haven't built the relationship. They haven't overcome uncertainty. They haven't known how to motivate them to action by telling them what they stand to lose as opposed to what they stand to gain. So that's a bungler. The other one is somebody that will smuggle the principles of influence in. So the beef study, they'd ring up next week and say there's an Argentinian beef and it's going to be rare. And those people, they don't last very long. So it's about, so the key things that we teach in the workshops are the 3 characteristics. Is what I'm saying true? is this principle naturally available to me? And is what I'm saying wise? Would I say this to my brother, my mother, my next door neighbor, my best friend? So true, natural, and wise are the key characteristics to make sure that if you're going to try and persuade somebody, you want it to be long-term, ethical, and effective. And of course you can trick people, but it will never work long-term because people know, and we're all in this together, right? We're all in this together now more than ever before. So if we can just say, well, look, how can we genuinely help each other? And the world's a whole lot better of a place. Yeah. In my mind, anyway, that's what I think.
Yeah, I have to kind of, because I'm not very good at self-promotion. And so I've had to do a reframe over the years in my mind, which is all about, you know, how can I get alongside you and help you with the issues that you've got? And in my mind, it feels absolutely A-OK to be helping people and supporting them. But I do feel uncomfortable with thinking I'm selling.
But if you use an influence, though, it's not so much about push. It's about understanding the algorithm. This is what I'm going to do, and this is where we connect. This is what we've got in common. Here's what, if you can do somebody a favor, do them a favor. If you can tell them that other people have got reviews for you, and you know, you've got NLP, you've got social psychology, Myers-Briggs, that makes people relax because they inside their brain, this cools their brain and think, okay, Ray, I can now come up and work with you because I now know that you're an expert. But if you don't tell me that, and I was thinking, oh, I'm not really sure, because you haven't told me anything. So you have to recognize it's not about you, it's about what the other person needs. And if you don't tell me what I stand to lose if I'm going to work with you, as opposed to if you do, I'll help you be this person, then I'm 50% less likely to work with you by telling you, here's what you lose if you don't work with me, rather than here's what you gain if you will work with me. And I've heard Dania singing. She's got the most amazing voice that I've ever heard. It's just like, oh, Hans Zimmer singing that song. It's just, and you're like, if you don't tell me what I stand to do, I miss out on that. So you miss the best bit if you don't communicate effectively and recognize you need to form a relationship. If that's weak, there's two things you can do. You need to overcome uncertainty. There's two things you can do. And if you need to motivate action, and I want to work with Daniel, I want to learn to sing, and I'm sitting on the fence, I'll come back next week and she says, I'm gone for the next 3 months. I'm busy. I'm like, why didn't you tell me? Why weren't you a better persuader and bloody tell me? Because I'd love to have known.
Perfect. Thank you.
Pleasure. Questions, guys? So anything else anybody wants to know? So an interesting study, this was a divorce lawyer in Arizona, and she was dealing with divorces. And she said to Dr. Cialdini, whenever somebody's going through a divorce, they always end up with one thing they're arguing over. It could be his mod airplane set, and it's worth, typically, she'll say it's worth 100,000, he'll say it's worth 10,000. They always end up arguing. And she said, what can I do? And he said, well, what about if you do this? When you tell people that have got something, she said, so here's what I do. You go and you say, we've got a deal. And then you say what the terms are. All we've got to do is let him have it for 10 grand. People hate to lose things. So if you tell them you've got something and all you have to do is this, all they can do is screw it up. So telling people this is what we've got and all you can do is blow it makes a massive difference. So loss framing is a super powerful motivator.
Yeah, absolutely.
Another thing is as well that's really good is there's a moment of power, right? That's really that's after somebody says no to you. When somebody says no to you, and it's linked to the principle of reciprocity. When somebody says no to you, there's a moment of power after no. So if you've got two requests to make to a client, a least expensive or a most expensive, you should always make the most expensive first. Right? Because if they say no to it, you've got a fallback position. You say, look, this is my program. This is what it is. It's £5,000. It's this over a 3-month period. If they come back and they say no, you can say, look, I thought you'd say no. So, you know, what I've done is I've prepared one at 2,000 and I've stripped it down. I've done whatever. So you've got something else. The fact that you've moved from your higher position to a lesser position, that's a real gift, and it's linked to the principle of reciprocity. So you really are giving somebody a gift. If you've got a backup option to your first option, that's a real gift to people. But it doesn't work the other way around. You don't sell them the 2 grand, then try and go to the 5 grand. That doesn't work.
I think that thing about having options, people like to appreciate because I guess in a way it they have more control. They're the one doing the choosing if you have the flexibility of choice.
Yeah. But you've got seconds to get it across and get it done. So what can you do to try and persuade somebody in a short space of time? Don't retreat and come back next week and say, I've got another option at $2,000. It just won't cut it. You need to do it in the moment.
David, I'm a little bit confused. Anyway, this was an amazing new presentation for me. I've never thought about persuasion, so it was really amazing. You told us now that we should start with the highest price, and then when somebody says no,
always, yeah.
Because there are so many people outside, they start with the lowest price and then continue and sell again and again.
It doesn't work like that. Honestly, it doesn't work like that. And it's linked to the principle of reciprocity. If I retreat from a situation to a lesser position, what happens, I'm doing you a genuine favor and you feel like I've done something for you. So you feel obligated to move from your position and come up. But you all start out with your biggest and your best first. Ideally, you have 3 options: a good, a better, and a best. And you always put your best first. And ideally, you have 3 options. If you get 2, it tends to be a dilemma, and then they can bring somebody else in. And if you get 3 choices, they say, well, I don't want that one, so it's either this one or this one. So ideally, 3 choices.
All right.
And I've spent my whole life, my last 30 years, I've spent it all on persuasion. So I can tell you for a fact, this works, and it works amazingly well.
Okay, because you know the sales funnel system, they always start with the low price and then they go higher.
Yeah.
It's how they're doing this in Austria and in Germany.
Yeah.
So it's a new way, a new approach, what you told me now.
Yeah, but it also depends on the context, right? I mean, that's what people do. I mean, there's a difference if you're going into a sales conversation like what David is talking about, or if you are actually running things automatically online, right?
Yeah.
So if you're not known, you're no name, but you have like a $10,000 offer, online, if you want people to buy that automatically, you don't put that out first.
Okay, so
it depends on the sales situation and what you're selling. And
one thing is, if you're selling to somebody and you're actually communicating with them when you're talking with them, then if you've got a higher offer and a lower offer and a medium offer, it's always the best to put your biggest and your best first. And I've got the social psychology studies that back that up. I can share that with you and show you. If you're doing something online and it's just getting somebody into your funnel to buy a cheap product, that's a different thing. What I'm talking about is if you've got a product offering and you're trying to offer something to a client and you want it, then you always offer your best first, and then you retreat from that to your lower and to your lower, always, every time.
Okay, thank you.
I've got a question. Thank you very much, David, for your great presentation. But I didn't understand just one thing that you were explaining about this lawyer which deals with divorces. So what should the lawyer do? I just didn't catch it, and it seemed very interesting because it was like a win-win strategy, but what it was all about, I didn't get it.
So we hate to lose things as human beings. We hate loss framing if we lose something. And so what happens when people are going into a negotiation and it's a divorce, typically they'll end up arguing over one thing. The one tiny thing, a model airplane set, that's one thing they'll end up arguing over. And there's no logic to it at all whatsoever. We shouldn't be arguing over that bloody thing. So what Dr. Cialdini said every time when she spoke to him, she said, we always end up arguing over one thing. And he said, look, well, why don't you use scarcity in your approach? Tell your client that you've got a deal, and he said, and what you see is the minute you say we've got a deal, people will go, he said, then you can say what the conditions are. All we need to do is this. Let him have the modular airplane set for 10 grand, for 10,000. If you agree it's that, you've got it. Then all you can do is you can blow it, because you're empowering the other person with control. And when we feel like we're in control, we don't want to let go. So you've got a deal, you've got this solved. All you've got to do is let him have the model airplane set at this price.
Right, we got it now. Thank you. Great. Okay.
Great, fabulous. Okay. So any burning questions anyone wants to go for? I think we have time for one more, and then I think we should round it off. Okay. Looks like no.
Cool.
Okay. David, there's just one quick question from Ray. What's your company called, David? But I think everyone that actually connects with you on LinkedIn will know more about you know, your business as well and what you do and so on. So we also, David and I, we always, whenever we are getting together, we are getting creative. And we always think about how can we do things a little more differently than we are doing them normally. So also this time we cooked up something else for all of you, because we thought, like, what could we do to serve and support everyone that is investing your time and being here with us and learning and wanting to learn and grow and become more persuasive and influential. We thought about what could we do with you to really help you not only understand it in your mind, but really also apply it and learn it. Go through the experience. So what we thought is, what we have agreed is, in 2 weeks from now, we're gonna have a follow-up call on this topic. We've never done this before, but we cooked this up for you so that you are not only learning, but you're also doing, and you really get it in your skin and in your system. So in 2 weeks, we're going to have another session here where we really discuss with every one of you, what have you done to apply it? What have you learned? What have you experienced? What worked? What didn't work? How can we help to really get it into your system? Sounds good? So on the 5th of May, exactly, it's a Tuesday, in 2 weeks from now, same time, same space, we're going to meet here again. And I think, David, what we could do to really help them make it happen is maybe you could give them some hints and tips of what they could do in the next 2 weeks to really make it a practice.
So let me share my screen with you. I'll just share my screen. I'll share something with you. So this is, can everybody see this map?
Yes.
Right, so this is what you get if you come to an influence workshop. I'm not supposed to release it, but you know what, for you guys, I'll do it. And so what this shows you is this is relationships, this is uncertainty, and this is action. And these are the things that you can do. So for relationships, you can give somebody a gift or make a concession. We said there's a moment of power to know. If you want to make that ideally right, you can go for something meaningful, unexpected, and customized. They feel it's a real gift. For liking, there's 3 things you can do. You can similarities, praise, or cooperation, or as you can do that guy did, you can like the one you're with, find something about them to like. For uncertainty and authority, you can use credibility and trustworthiness. I mentioned a weakness earlier on. That's a way to get people to trust you. So I'll let you have a copy of this message map. I'll give you each of a copy of this message map. Just drop me a thing on LinkedIn and I'll ping you a copy of it. And this is really useful for understanding what to do. We've not talked about contrast today. We've not talked about unity today. I can talk about those next week. But I'll give you an insight in an hour. As much as you're going to get in an hour, that's as much as you're going to get, unless we're going to run the whole workshop. But would everybody like this message map? Yeah?
Yes, please.
Yeah, cool. So if you just reach out, just drop me a note on LinkedIn, send me a copy of the message map. I'll ping you a copy of that. And if you've got any questions in between times, come back to me and just say, David, I've got a question. I'm stuck. This doesn't work. I don't get, and I'll share some more stuff with you. I've created a little online course for influence in video format. I'll see if I can get that for all of you. If I can get that for all of you, then I'll get it. It's like, I don't know, probably 30 videos, half a dozen videos for each principle. I probably will be able to get that for you. So if I can get that, so just ping me your email address, ping me a thing on LinkedIn, and then I'll send you into the hopefully I'll get you onto the online platform. I'm sure I'll be able to do that, and that'll show you what's what from an influence perspective, so you can watch it back. This is like watching a film. Watch it once, you get it once, but if you go over it and over and over again, it will help you develop. So yeah.
And that's such a generous offer, and I know even this template is worth pure gold, guys. Okay, really get your hands on it and use it. So the next couple of weeks, what I invite you and what David and I invite you to do is really play with it, okay? Digest the conversation. I've seen a lot of you have taken a lot of notes, right? So go through the conversation. We're gonna upload this video as well, the recording, into our mySpeakerBusiness Hall of Fame. So it's gonna be there, and I'm gonna share with you all the links so you can find it. If you want to watch it again, if you feel you can live through your notes, perfect. Just pick, you know, from every element, you know, just think about, what could you do right now to play with things? Try them out, okay? So that you get a concrete experience, you get some concrete results, and be really excited to hear from all of you about what's happening for you over the next 2 weeks. Sounds good? Okay. Good. Thank you so much, David, for being on with us today. I know you're living in my heart, as I know I'm living in yours, right? So, and all of you, it's been amazing to have you on. Quite a few of you are going through our 5-day course with us as well. Some of you have been working with for quite a few months and even longer. Really happy again to see how all of you are keen to grow, to evolve, to step up for yourself, for your business, to make a bigger impact in the world. So let's do that together. Okay, I wish you all a fabulous time. See you again in 2 weeks in this setting. See you, most of you actually, this afternoon at 4 at our day 2 of our How You Create Online Courses 5 days mastery course. Look forward to have you there as well. And have a fabulous time, and see you all in 2 weeks. Thank you, David.
Thank you. Respect. Cheers, guys. Thanks for your time. Appreciate it. See you in a couple of weeks.